If you've watched my channel before, you know that I'm a pretty big fan of ThinkPads. I have been for a long time. I love doing reviews of them. This here is the ThinkPad L14, brand new for 2024. I picked this up off Lenovo. Actually, I bought it right when it came out in Canada. Bought it myself, and I've had it for a little while here, for a few weeks. I've been just messing around with it, doing some reviews, jumping back and forth. I like to test things like this a little bit here, and just mess around with them a bit. This here is one of Lenovo's more budget offerings. Their L series is one of their more budget offerings. They have like the X series, the T series, the P series. Those can be pretty high end. When you get down to the E series and the L series, that's meant to be their more intro level, budget friendly. This one here, though, has something really fantastic about it, and you may be able to see it has a killer screen. This one here, you can upgrade to 100% sRGB screen, taking it up from those typical like 45% NTSC screens, which are just not good, not very bright. You know, sometimes they're like 300, sometimes they're like 250 nits, bad color space, not really that compelling. I mean, it gets the job done, but they're not really nice to work on. This one here has a really, really nice screen. It actually has some other really nice features you're going to find in this video as well. But realistically, if you're looking for a budget ThinkPad that's not going to break the bank, but has a good CPU and has good overall user experience, this brand new L14 for 2024 is actually a very compelling option, to be honest. Okay, let's have a look at the Lenovo builder here for the L14. This is the Canadian website, which is what I bought it off. I'm going to go with American dollars just because it's easier for all the audience to convert from American, but obviously I paid Canadian here. So you have some pre-built ones here. You can see they're not that appealing, put it that way. So you can come down here, you can go to builder though, and then you can spec it out how you want. So you have an i3 7335U, you can go up to the 7535U, and then if you add another 134, you can go all the way up to that Ryzen 7 7735U, which is, I mean, it is very compelling to go up here for a $30 difference between the two there. You're going to get significantly better iGPU and obviously much better CPU performance. Come down here, you can add some software. RAM is customizable. You can upgrade it yourself in this laptop, so it's up to you. I believe I just got it with 8 gigabytes. I just slapped in a 24 gigabyte kit, so that's your call. Again, you can upgrade the SSD here, but it's pretty expensive to upgrade, so I'd go with base and base, myself personally. And here's where things become compelling. You can see here we have 45% NTSC. Nah. 45% NTSC, nah. 100% sRGB, 400 nits, which is relatively bright as well. Now it is 60 Hz refresh rate, but it's not a big deal. 1200p, not a big deal at 14 inches, but that 100% sRGB is going to be very compelling on this laptop. You'll see when we get to the screen test in this laptop that really makes the laptop there. And then, you just saw this basic stuff here. You can go from plastic up to this PC polycarbonate carbon fiber blend, which is what I did. I went for that there. And fingerprint reader, I think I added two. I added the bigger battery, and I did backlit keyboard as well. So looks like we're at about $939 American before the discounts. I paid only $1,000 Canadian. I'd highly recommend upgrading the screen. CPU is up to you. RAM and these, I just do them yourself, to be honest. You'll see how I do it in this video. But I would highly recommend that screen option because it's a very compelling upgrade on this laptop. ThinkPad, brand new ThinkPad. This is the L14, brand new for 2024. This came out, I guess it would be a week ago, maybe a week and a half. Whenever it came out, I ordered it that same day, and it took like a week to a week and a half to get here. So this is a brand new model. This one here used the builder, so I went through and I spec'd it out how I wanted. You can get the traditional kind of ThinkPad top, which is like a rubberized texture on it. You can pick that one. It's like an ABS plastic rubber hybrid. I decided to go with the metal plastic hybrid or whatever they call it. And here's a look inside the laptop here. Again, this is a L series. If you get up to the T series and P series, sometimes the inner materials are a little bit different. I find that the L series and the E series typically have a little bit more of like, I don't know, it's a different type of plastic. They're all kind of plasticky, but it's a slightly different plastic, almost like a more brittle, like not quite as premium feeling. It's still nice though. It doesn't feel like a cheap laptop by any means, but you can definitely tell that you're touching, I guess, like an L series ThinkPad versus a T series. They're just slightly different plastic. Very light, 1,400 grams, just shy of 1,400 grams. It's actually pretty light. What it is, even these 65-watt chargers used to be quite a bit bigger, usually a little bit thicker and wider. So I mean, what's that gonna add? Yeah, it adds like nothing. Yeah, 91. Yeah, that's very light. Port selection is quite good on this laptop. You can see you do get an Ethernet port. Awesome. That's your first USB-C. Typically, you'd want to use that for power. This is a 40 gigabit USB 4 port, so that's going to be perfect if you're going to be running something like a dock, USB Thunderbolt 4 dock. That'll be fantastic. Display is out of that. Very, very fast storage. You can run NVMe's like this here that are going to give you very, very fast storage. And then you're also going to get display out of them as well, and all kinds of ports. This is a Thunderbolt 4, USB 4 dock here. Fantastic to see that on a laptop like this. HDMI, obviously. Another USB-A. This one has always on battery charging. And then on your right side there, you get a headphone jack, 2 more USB-A. These are going to run relatively fast there. I guess that's an optional smart card pop out there. Ventilation on the back there. I think if you do add, a cellular, I think it goes in there. Good on the bottom as well. So I was able to get RAM for a pretty good price, to be honest. So I'm going to upgrade this RAM right now, but I'm going to upgrade it myself. So we can just pop out the battery here real quick. Pop up this here. It does ship with good RAM. You can see that there, Lenovo memory, SK Hynix. Does ship with good memory here, SK Hynix, 12 per stick here, so we can upgrade this very easily to a much more usable. 16 gigabytes isn't terrible. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if you have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but 24 goes a long way, especially when you have integrated graphics here. If you do decide to do some gaming on it, there we go. Now we're upgraded. So we have the RAM up there. You could upgrade the NVMe if you want it. Just pop it out, put a new one in. But we're just going to go with the RAM upgrade. I think that's going to be more than enough there. So overall, I mean, it's a nice looking laptop inside. Wi-Fi is not upgradable, I guess, but upgradable storage. Upgradable RAM on a 14-inch laptop is something that's fading these days. You don't see it as often anymore. And a nice big fan is always a nice thing to see as well. So really nice inside, honestly. So you can see here the keyboard is a typical ThinkPad keyboard. You can get it with backlighting. You can see that I have it. So it's off, on minimum, on max, off. So there's 3 settings there basically, and you can see that it is relatively effective, right? It's not meant to be, crazy RGB or anything, but it is quite nice if you're just typing at night. Fingerprints on this model aren't going to be terrible. They will get fingerprints, but the thing is, because it's a different type of texture, it's more of a plasticky type texture, a hard plastic premium feeling, you're not going to get that really bad fingerprints when it's a little bit like rubbery. You can see I have like perspiration marks, but they just fade away, which is quite nice. And you can give them a quick wipe down, which is quite nice, to be honest there. Typical ThinkPad layout there. You do have your function and control switched back. Some of the higher end ones, they're the traditional, which is function over here, control over here, which can confuse people. You can switch them in the BIOS. Here, the default is control function, which I think for most people is more normal, I guess I'd say. Typical ThinkPad chiclet keyboard. You can see that they're not huge physical keycaps, but they're also not that small. There's definitely some smaller ones out there. Really nice amount of travel there. Snappy, super snappy as well. You can see there you do have your function keys and your, I guess, alts kind of embedded up here, so you can go like that, volume up, volume down. You can also just hit function escape and that'll flip it out. So now there are function keys. Now they're, hit that again, and now they're going to work as like volume up, volume down type stuff there. So really, really nice and convenient for your need there. Let's give it a quick typing test here and see what it's like though. Yeah, so the keyboard is fantastic. I mean, it's a ThinkPad keyboard. Some people don't like the new ThinkPads compared to the old ones, but when it comes down to it, the new ThinkPads are still best in class, realistically. They're incredibly good keyboards. You can see there you do get the traditional track point nib right there, which is going to be bent, which is going to be tied in with the actual controls here. So you can use that to navigate here, left click, right click, scroll. It's fantastic if you don't not used to it, maybe you won't like it, but it is quite nice if you're typing, right? You don't have to remove your hand down to the trackpad to navigate around. What you end up doing if your touch type is, at least, is you can then just move one finger, navigate around, especially if you're just editing a document type thing. For like web browsing, I still use this quite a bit because it's just easier and you can do 2-finger gestures. But if you're just on a website or something like that, or if you're just on a document, I mean, just go like that and move that up. You don't have to remove your hand down here to just navigate around in a document. So that's quite nice. The trackpad itself, as a result, is a little bit smaller, right? But it's a traditional ThinkPad trackpad, which is quite nice. Clicks are fine on these. Actually, it's pretty good for a ThinkPad. ThinkPads have a bit of a range. So some of them can be a little bit gummy. This one's actually pretty sharp, which I like. So that's actually one of the better ThinkPad keyboard. That's one of the better ThinkPad trackpads that I've used, like ever. That's a really nice ThinkPad trackpad. So really happy with that. This does come equipped with Lenovo Commercial Vantage. You can download it yourself if you do a fresh image, but that is where you're going to do a little bit of your control. You can get support through here. You're going to get updates, specifically like BIOS updates. You're going to come in here and do updates there. We'll let that run its thing. There's some other stuff in here you can do, like power. If you don't, you can turn off your always on battery there. Or sorry, always on USB there. You can also set up a battery charge threshold, so it'll only charge up to 75-80%, which if you're leaving your laptop plugged in all the time, is better for the battery realistically. The most important one's probably the updates, because you can come in here and get BIOS updates. You can get them from the Lenovo website, but you can also get them through Vantage. You can see here there actually is a BIOS update right there. Very good. Specs on this model is a little bit customizable, right? So when you get this laptop, you can pick a couple different CPUs. You can customize the amount of RAM you want, the amount of storage. I went with the highest end for this year, the 7735U processor, which is fantastic. It's essentially going to be like 6800U, I guess is what it would be, because they just rebranded it, which is an awesome CPU. Should be very energy efficient, but it's still going to have a lot of power. 8 real cores, and you get 16 threads. You get then for the GPU, it doesn't say here, but that's the AMD 680M, which is going to be more powerful than a Steam Deck for sure. Like definitely more powerful than a Steam Deck. Probably a little bit below an ROG Ally Legion Go, but it's definitely going to be very capable of gaming. We'll see that when we get to the gaming portion. This here you can see potentially on camera is a really nice screen from Lenovo. I like that they added this option here. It's just 1200p. It's not super fine resolution. 14-inch laptop though, I find that to be fine. Usually when you go above 14-inch, you want to increase the pixel density. You want to increase the resolution so that you get better pixel density. But 14 inches, I'm actually fine with 1200p, still looks good. And then you can see here, it's not going to be super high refresh rate or anything like that. But what you can't see on the spec sheet here is that it is an sRGB, 100% sRGB screen. So a lot of these ThinkPads, they just throw on like really bad screens, like 75% sRGB or whatever they are. They would be like 45% NTSC. Reds just look like garbage on those screens. They do not look good. They're not very bright. This one here is relatively bright, but most importantly, it has a really nice color space on the screen. 100% sRGB on ThinkPad is very important to me. I don't like to have laptops that have just bad color spaces. They don't have to have, 100% DCI-P OLED screen with 750 hertz refresh rate, but regardless, I still want to have a 100% sRGB screen, because when you're consuming media, just watching shows and things like that, which is something that people do on their laptops, it's quite nice to have a laptop screen that is enjoyable, has really nice reds. So right off the bat here, you can see that these reds are very vivid here. We'll see if we can zoom in there slightly. Very vivid reds you can see here. It definitely is nice to have that 100% sRGB color space rather than some crushed like 45% NTSC. Even some of the like mid-range, and honestly even some of the like higher end, like mid to higher end laptops on the market there, you can get some pretty bad specs on the screen here. Mid-range stuff, a lot of the time, you're going to be getting maybe 100% sRGB. That's like a huge selling feature for them. But like a lot of times they can have bad screens. And then sometimes like, the less expensive stuff, they have like just bad screens, like 45% NTSC, 250 nits, something like that, 220 sometimes. They look like garbage. Here, having 100% sRGB screen is very vibrant and vivid here for that red. I mean, for the cost of the laptop, you're not getting into like a $3,000 laptop. It's quite nice. Really good blacks here. I mean, it's not an OLED, but these are very good blacks, right? For an IPS screen, very good blacks. There's no bleed or anything like that here. It looks really, really nice, actually. So they're not putting a cheap panel here. If you upgrade the screen to the 100% sRGB screen, you're going to be getting really good, vivid colors. Actually, really vivid colors here. Everything's looking really nice and vibrant here. It really does make a laptop more enjoyable, even just a day-to-day laptop when you have a good color space on it. Consuming media, you will be consuming media on the laptop. It's not, you don't have to be a professional graphic designer to appreciate a good color space on a laptop. Right, look how great this looks here. So overall, really nice screen. I highly recommend, if you can afford it at least, I highly recommend upgrading the screen. Being able to go into the builder, add a little bit of cost to the laptop itself, but get a significantly better screen really does improve the laptop itself, makes it more enjoyable, more usable. Your eyes are going to thank you. Okay, so let's check out the speakers here. They do have those upgraded speakers. A lot of these like lower end ThinkPads typically had really bad speakers in the past. These here are located here, so they're going to fire right at you and then basically right into the user, which should be pretty nice. And they look like they are upgraded over previous years. So let's hear how this actually sounds. Oh yeah, it's very loud. think those are the best ThinkPad speakers I've ever used, honestly. I mean, ThinkPads aren't known to have the best speakers. Usually you get into like the Yoga 9i, the Slim 7 Pro. That's where you start to get into the really good speakers from Lenovo. Usually the ThinkPads have like what I would consider bad speakers. Bad to passable at best. Like there's, like the P1 ThinkPads, which are extremely expensive. They have like good, I guess, passable, good speakers. They're pretty good. The P16 that I'm using on a daily basis has good. It's also a very expensive, thick laptop. These are really good, actually. I would say these are I would say these are the best ThinkPad speakers I've ever used. You're getting low-end bass, mid-range, all the way up to the high-end, nice and clear all the way through. It's not going to beat out like a Yoga 9i Pro or something like that. Those just have much bigger speakers. There's just more thump and more, there's kind of just a more fullness to the volume and to the sound on those, but these are very good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is test the performance modes. Interestingly, on ThinkPads, these battery settings, when you come in here, they actually do make a difference because the Lenovo, I guess, power management is actually tied into the Windows power management. All right, so let's see how noisy the laptop is. Now the temperatures are like here. So the CPU throttled for like a second, and then now we're not even close to throttling, so the fan's kicked up. That's actually very cool for the CPU. No issues there. Watts, it looks like it's giving a nice 22 watts or so there. Pretty static. Might go up and down a bit, but like it peaked at 28. So you probably get a burst of 28 to 30, and it's going to want to sit around 22, which isn't too bad. The laptop is very quiet, by the way. Come in here and throw this on balance, see if it gets any quieter. Significantly quieter. Watts did drop down by about 6 or 7. 15 watts. That's about the same amount of watts as a Steam Deck would get. I can hear the fans, but they're now very quiet. Slightly above like the room itself. The mic might exaggerate it, but it's pretty quiet. We'll go like that there. Don't breathe. Yeah, I think the fans are on. I don't know, I can't really tell. Yeah, they are on, but you can't hear them. You have to stick your ear up to it. So that's the difference there. Okay, here's a look at some benchmarks now. We can see Cinebench left is silent, middle is balanced, right is performance mode. You can see 4,334 on silent mode, which is realistically pretty good for such low wattages. In the middle there, 7,155, which is pretty good again for middling wattages there. And you can see there on the far right, we're getting all the way up over 10,000, 10,500, which is actually very good. Again, for being a relatively low watt CPU, just running at around 25 watts or something like that. Running around 25 watts or so and being, I guess, a generation and a half old, it's still going to perform very well. Even if you're doing things like 4K video editing, you're going to have no problems on the CPU here. SSK Hynix 4000 reads, 2700 writes, so kind of a middling Gen 4, easy to upgrade. This is still relatively fast. You're going to have no problems with this drive here whatsoever. Then you can see there, of course, we do have access to USB 4. So my USB 4 enclosure here, you can see we're getting USB 4 speeds, very, very fast for external enclosure, which does make this a lot more compelling because you can do work off of an external enclosure and still get really good speeds. Then you can see here that the Wi-Fi is also very fast. This is about as fast as my Wi-Fi can possibly go. Okay, here's a look at the webcam. It does have a slider, so you can slide across, turn it off if need be. Overall, it looks like a pretty good webcam. You can spec these things out. Sometimes Lenovo offers not so great webcams. Sometimes they offer fantastic webcams. This one here I would actually consider to be a pretty good webcam. Polling rate is good realistically for a relatively budget offering in the ThinkPad lineup, and the lighting is good. I do not have good lighting in this area right here, and it's not completely blowing up my face or anything like that. You can see, obviously, you can improve the lighting with a light, but even in a pretty bad situation like this, it looks pretty good. So this is a good webcam. So here's a game, Baldur's Gate. You can see here that we're getting pretty decent performance here. Again, this is, and yeah, we're playing at 1200p. I didn't do any scaling on the screen. I did put on some DLSS, quality DLSS, and we're on low here, but this is a very demanding game. I always test Baldur's Gate because it will absolutely slam the system, and you can see here, it will hit the GPU and the CPU at the same time. This is an outdoor area, pretty hard to run area over here, obviously. Right, you're not going to be at 60, obviously, not in a game like this. This is pretty demanding overall. It's going to run really well. You can also do things like, add more scaling. We're at 1200p. We're not at like 800p like a Steam Deck. This is a higher resolution screen than a Steam Deck. I guess it's technically slightly more powerful than a Steam Deck, right? Yeah, you can see there you're going to get pretty good performance overall. Yeah, and here is The Witcher, I guess, next gen or whatever. So basically enhanced. And yeah, a little bit of a low setting here, but with a little bit of DLSS, not performance or anything like that. And 1200p. You can see here, I mean, you're going to be able to play this game and enjoy, right? So these are relatively demanding titles. That's why I'm showing them. Baldur's Gate is pretty hard on iGPUs, to be honest. The Witcher 3 is pretty graphically intensive. It doesn't slam CPU as much, but it still can be pretty demanding. And realistically, it does hit the GPU pretty hard. You can see here we're pulling 28 watts there on the GPU, very good. And yeah, it's good performance. I mean, 40 FPS or so, pretty much rock solid, no real lows issues there, and you're gonna have a great time in this game, right? Like, you're gonna actually enjoy playing this game, no problem. And I mean, that basically points out here that, I mean, you're not gonna be probably playing Starfield at 4K with ultra ray tracing, not on something like this, but you have hundreds of thousands of games you can play. You can play modern AAA games like Baldur's Gate, modern, slightly older AAA games like Witcher here, and this is refresh. It's not the actual original. It's the enhanced version. No problems whatsoever. Any type of AAA 3D title, like this, probably from 2022 or older, are going to run incredibly well. If they're 20 or older, they're going to run absurdly well, realistically. And then if you're playing brand new titles that are not necessarily 3D style AAA games, there's, again, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of games out there you can play. You're gonna have an absolute blast on it, right? So loads of games you can play on this. Basically, it has a 680M. It's gonna have great drivers. It's gonna have great performance overall, and you're gonna be able to play realistically most of the games that exist. Okay, so I guess that's that. This is the brand new 2024 Lenovo ThinkPad L14 here. It's not everything completely top of the line in here. This is just the L lineup, which is supposed to be one of their more budget offerings. But let me tell you, this thing is actually really nice. Great CPU in here. Yeah, it's a couple generations old, but it's still very, very capable. The iGPU in here is also very good. The 680M iGPU, fantastic. You can spec it out with a slightly lower CPU in here, but I mean, it's still fantastic regardless. I'd definitely go for the highest if you can afford it. The RAM in here is upgradable, right? So I was able to take this up to 24 gigabytes of RAM, relatively easy. The design of the laptop is nice. I mean, you get that ThinkPad design here, nice and sturdy, really, really nice looking. The black here, different type of plastic. They have a few different plastics. This one is actually not too bad for fingerprints. Realistically, you should be able to wipe them off. You do get that nice lid there as well. Really, really nice. Nice hinges and everything. Keyboard is absolutely fantastic here. Really nice. You get your standard Lenovo track point nib with the buttons here, as well as actually the trackpad. Fantastic. Decent enough upgradability. RAM upgradable, SSD upgradable. Of course, the battery life down. Battery down the road is upgradable. The only thing you can't really is the Wi-Fi soldered. The really nice thing here is that you can upgrade this and customize it how you want. Like, you can get a fingerprint reader if you want. You also don't need to pay for it. You can get backlit keyboard. You don't have to pay for it. The biggest thing here, though, is this really nice screen that they have on it. It's only 1200p. However, the pixel density is still pretty good. And the other thing is it's 100% sRGB on the screen here. So really nice colors for a budget ThinkPad. It's so nice that they give you the option of going from that relatively mediocre or not so great screen, paying a little bit extra money and jumping up to this really nice screen here. That's a killer upgrade, and I think it's important that Lenovo offers those on laptops. You don't always want to necessarily, just have that really crappy screen. Let people pay a little bit more and get the nicer screen. I understand they do want to segment their ThinkPads lineup, but being able to get someone into a laptop like this, letting them pay a little bit extra to get that beautiful screen is outstanding. The other thing that's shockingly good on this laptop was the speakers. They're very good. This ThinkPad here, I think, has the best ThinkPad speakers I've ever used. I would say most likely. So if you're looking for a Lenovo ThinkPad, I mean, a lot of people may overlook the L series and the E series because they're a little bit more budget. However, the fact that this L14 here does have this really nice screen option, the built-in speaker upgrade as well, and everything else is just really nice. I think this is a very compelling option for people to. So I will stick some links in the description below if you're looking for this laptop that's from different countries. I do have affiliate links as well. They're not directly through Lenovo, they're through a third party, but if you do use them, it does help me out quite a bit because I buy the vast majority of stuff. This laptop here, I buy about, I would say 95% of the laptops that I review, I buy myself, which can be pretty expensive. So it's actually incredibly helpful for me. It's hard for me to state how helpful it is that some of you guys are using the affiliate links. It doesn't add anything to the price, and it really does help me out.